Welcome on into the first ever episode of BKL. Makes me want to shout. A collaboration that's being considered the greatest collaboration since Lemonade laid down with iced tea and created the sweet nectar that we considered the Arnold Palmer. I'm Josh Reed alongside Carl Jones, Matt Parrino, and Ryan Talbot. Looking forward to talking Bills and some stuff around the league. Let's start off with the Bills' injuries. A couple of big ones right away. Ed Oliver is not going to be playing against the Dolphins on Thursday night. Matt Milano has also been ruled out. Taron Johnson was limited once again today, along with Cam Lewis. With Taron Johnson, though, watching him practice on, let me try to keep track of the days of the week at this point. When we saw him on the practice field Tuesday, I thought he looked pretty good. I would say, if I was a betting man, which I am, I would bet that Taron Johnson would be on the field against the Miami Dolphins on Thursday Night Football. But let's backtrack a second here. Matt Milano's injury. I mean, am I saying anything that we haven't talked about the last 2.5 years? I mean, Matt Milano, he's hurt because it's Matt Milano, and he is always hurt, Carl Jones.
Yeah, it's tough to see, especially with how we've seen in the past how dynamic of a player he is when he's healthy. I know at St. John Fisher, my eyes were glued on him. I just wanted to see if he came back to a competent player. And besides 17, who makes ridiculous plays in practice all the time, I thought Matt Milano was the best player at St. John Fisher. And the fact that he is out yet again, it puts the Bills in a position that they've been in the past few years, but it never helps when a player of that athleticism, his IQ, and his ability to bring guys down in space. Think of what he did to Lamar Jackson last year in the postseason. It's not good when he's out of the lineup. Matt,
to me, I'm at the point now with Matt Milano where, look, he plays out the rest of this contract. If he comes back and he's healthy, if it's a month from now and Dorian Williams has played well, I say roll with Dorian Williams. That's where I am at this point. I want to see the chemistry and continuity of Dorian on the field now because he's only got 1 year left on his contract after this year. So give me Dorian Williams still. Even if Matt comes back healthy, if Dorian's playing well. Too strong?
No, I don't think it's too strong. I think that what this outcome shows us is that Brandon and maybe even Matt Milano saw the writing on the wall this past offseason. I mean, this has been a guy that's, even when he's gotten back to a place where he could play, rehabbing back from the bicep injury last year, we still saw him on the injury report twice at the end of the season. He hasn't played more than 3 games in a row since 2023. And I think one of the things that's a luxury for the Bills is you have a guy like Dorian Williams and maybe to a lesser extent Cam Lewis in the slot. These are guys that could be starting on other teams. And, Dorian specifically, I feel like he's just coming into his powers. You don't hear Sean McDermott talk about a guy really understanding the nuances of position, kind of the way that he sung the praises of Dorian Williams over the course of the last week. And Bobby Babich was in that room with Dorian a couple of years ago. So he knows what he brings to the lineup as well. I think, and I could toss it over to Ryan here for a second, but I think for me, the big thing here is Matt Milano being available in January is a luxury also for this team. And you can let Dorian Williams go through the season, be the guy that plays the brunt of these snaps, Ryan, and then see where you're at. And listen, Terrell Bernard has had a struggle staying healthy too.
Yeah, absolutely spot on, Matt, because if you can get Matt Milano healthy for the postseason, that does give this Bills defense a boost, even if it's from a depth perspective. Dorian Williams, the athletic traits are all there. He's a guy that flies from sideline to sideline. We see he's a tackling machine. One area he needs to work on is the coverage. And how are you going to get better at coverage rather than just being on the field? So this is a great opportunity for the Bills to see what they have in Williams, how he can do. And I agree with Josh. Let Dorian Williams ride this out this season, see how it looks. You do have some guys waiting in the wings here. They like Joe Andreessen and what he brings to the table. They stumbled upon Jimmy Charlo. Keontae Jenkins is a player that they're trying to develop on the practice squad. So they have guys waiting in the wings. I want to see what Dorian Williams can do, though, before that contract runs out.
The Bills went with, Max Harrison and then 3 defensive linemen in the draft. There were a couple of linebackers that I really liked in this past draft that I thought, these guys might actually be good replacements eventually for a Matt Milano, and they obviously decided not to go that direction. And I wonder if there's a little bit of I don't know, buyer's remorse is if you take the guy and it doesn't work, but non-buyer's remorse, I guess. I don't know, for me, Dorian Williams, you got to find out what you have there. You have to, because like I said, after next season, his contract's up. You're going to need to figure out what you have, because Matt Milano, 2022 season seems like a long time ago at this point with the veteran linebacker. Moving on, but staying on the defensive side of the ball, Matt Parrino, Joey Bosa, good God, did he look good against the Jets. I mean, he was flying all over the place. You got to feel like through 2 weeks of the season, Brandon Beane is sitting there going, this is exactly what I wanted to see out of an edge rusher.
Speaking of putting players on ice, is there a way to do that with Joey Bosa until January? Because I think that right now is the biggest fear Bills fans have when watching this defense operate over the course of the first 2 weeks. It wasn't great for that whole game against the Baltimore Ravens, but we saw the upside with Joey Bosa and what that can mean for other guys. I thought it was interesting leading into the game last week. Daquan Jones told me when I asked him who needs to step up, the first two names out of his mouth were Joey Bosa and Greg Rousseau, and Bosa really answered the call. I think that helped maybe limit the pressure or limit the expectations for rookies, TJ Sanders and Deion Walker, allow a guy like Zion Logue to come up off the practice squad and take some of the pressure off him, because by the end of that game, if they weren't already, the Jets had to game plan to try to Bosa out of that game, and they couldn't even do it. The big question is, can he stay healthy?
Ryan, I had a chance to talk to Joey this week after practice. He got done with his media availability, and we were just kind of walking back to the locker room, chit-chatting a little bit. And I said, the Thursday night, the quick turnaround, how do you deal with that? And he goes, look, not just as a veteran. I hated these games when I was a rookie. I hated them when I was in my second season. But he did bring up the fact that because the score was what it was against the Jets late in the game, he was able to throttle back a little bit. So that could help him going into this quick turnaround.
Yeah, absolutely. And it also helps that he's going against a Dolphins offensive line that has backups at right guard and right tackle.
We might be able to get pressure on Tua with that offensive line.
Absolutely. Larry Borum gave up 5 pressures last week against New England. And now they're going against a quarterback that's not nearly as mobile as Lamar Jackson and Justin Fields. So I think Joey Bosa has another chance to have multiple pressures in this game. He has 3 forced fumbles in 2 weeks. No other defender has more than 1 so far this season. So he has been as advertised, and I think he's going to be in line for another big game on Thursday night.
And Carl, let's wrap up the Joey Bosa talk a little bit, because I know that we've talked a little bit during the week about just the impact he's had already on the defense. But with Ed Oliver out, it seems like they need him to have another big game, because they lose one of their other kind of premier pass rushers on their defense.
Yeah, for sure. When I think of a Joey Bosa heading into this season, I said this to you earlier in the week, I didn't think of him in that S-tier elite edge rusher guy. He's never been that. I don't think he even has an all-pro to his name, but he's been that notch below. First 2 weeks, he's looked like he can put an AP by the end of his name. I know it is 2 weeks. I am not saying that Joey Bosa is a lock for the all-pro team, but I'm saying, though, his impact and how he's able to win one-on-one, which is the number one objective of an elite guy in this league, that is something that this Bills defense has been lacking for years. They've kind of operated in this, the whole is greater than the sum of its parts deal. Well, when you have a guy who can go one-on-one, and the Jets made a mistake, and I believe blocked him with a tight end in one play, so I don't know what they was doing. They was tripping at MetLife Sunday afternoon. But nonetheless, a great performance in week 2, and I'm expecting similar things Thursday night.
All right, let's take a quick break for a word from our sponsors.
Thanks for watching Shout, everybody. Our big collaboration with Bills Kickoff Live and WIVB Plus. Shout is brought to you, as always, by Tops Friendly Markets. Right now, it's the rush to the Tops Red Zone. Win the GOAT, the greatest of all tailgates, in the Tops Red Zone raffle. Shop from over 25 fan favorite brands and get unlimited savings when you purchase brands like Coca-Cola, Heinz, King's Hawaiian, Kraft, Pepsi, and so many more. You'll be entered to win the GOAT, an ultimate tailgate package that includes a Samsung outdoor TV, Traeger grill, Oni pizza oven, Igloo Cool Tunes cooler, a $500 chef experience, and so much more. To find out more, visit topsmarkets.com/redzone.
Shout is also brought to you by Amtrak. Amtrak's Empire Service offers frequent departures, daily from Niagara Falls, Buffalo, all the way to New York City. And there are so many perks: comfort, no middle seats, plenty of leg room, free Wi-Fi, so much more, and such ease of travel, Matt. No baggage fees whatsoever. Tons of discounts offered as well. Kids ride 50% off, senior discounts, military discounts, and so much more.
All right, Ryan, let's get back to the show.
Ryan, a wise man once said, in order to win the game, you can't lose the game, and you lost the game, so you couldn't win the game, or whatever. I don't know what Mike McDaniel was trying to say. The Dolphins coach had my head spinning. I went back and watched that press conference 3 times, and I was like, I still am not sure what he was trying to say. I mean, his career may be on life support at this point.
He sounded so dejected in that presser. 0-2 start. I think a lot of Dolphins fans thought they could get out of the gate to a quick start the way that they had success against New England. The Colts weren't a team that you were anticipating giving anyone trouble. So now you're sitting at 0-2 and you're coming to Buffalo, a team that historically has had, the number of the Miami Dolphins. So it's not looking good for Mike McDaniel. The problem is he hasn't adapted. He's relied on speed. He's relied on finesse. It kind of reminds me of the Bills years ago where they said they can't play that physical brand of football. Well, the Bills adapted, and now they can. They can hurt you with the run. They can hurt you with the pass. It just seems like this offense, if Tua doesn't have his first read, if they can't go a game without turning over the ball, they can't win these games.
Yeah, Carl, it doesn't seem to be that he's adapted to what defenses throw at him. He came out of the gate hot and was kind of like, oh, man, this guy's got the league figured out. And then the league counterpunched, and he never figured out an answer.
I do want to say, I do think their offense is innovative, and he's clearly a bright guy. The innovation that they bring to the table is unique. Having said that, the offense is just not flexible at all. When you take away Tua's literal left hand, there's not much they can do on that side of the ball. When I look at their roster, offensively as well as the defensive side of the ball, some of this is Mike McDaniel because, as we know, head coaches have some input on who they bring into the building. But how many players on like rookie contracts can you say, yeah, the Dolphins can build around those guys? Achane, sure. Maybe their left tackle, Patrick Paul, and on the other side of the ball, I like Chopper Robinson. That's 3 guys. There's 53 on a 53-man roster. This roster is in bad shape. Clearly, the leadership at the top isn't great as well. I'm not going to sit up here and say the man should lose his job. I'm not going to advocate for that. But, boy, that marriage between Mike McDaniel, Chris Grier, and Tua Tagovailoa, I think, is run its course.
Matt, finally, last on this Mike McDaniel topic. The X's and O's are one thing, but as a head coach, you got to be a leader. And quite frankly, that's probably even more important than the X's and O's side of things, because when you come in, you take over the program, you have to put the X's and O's guys in place. You got to have those coaches so that you can be the CEO of your company. And it sure doesn't look like he is CEO material.
I mean, I'm not in there. So, I hate, casting, generalizations without really understanding the dynamics of everything. But from the outside looking in, for years, it's just felt like he's so concerned about the wrong things, right? What style aviators is he wearing on the sideline? T-shirts at practice, like the newest Jordans or whatever, kicks he's wearing. It's got the tag on them. I'm not a sneakerhead, so I didn't know you're supposed to have the tag remaining on the shoe. I learned that on a primetime game watching Mike McDaniel when he was going up against one of the top teams in the league, and it just feels like he cares about the wrong stuff. And I watched that in-season Hard Knocks and him try to really connect with his room when they were going through it. And that was the worst thing that could have happened to that team at that time, because I don't know how you come back from that. And there's been all of these little issues along the way, the latest being the Tyreek Hill fiasco at the end of the season. A head coach that has control of the locker room, that has built a culture, those things don't happen. And so I look at this thing and I back up and I look at it from a Bills perspective, and we're hyper close to the Bills situation, and there's a section of the fan base that's always seems really prickly about Sean McDermott. And the one thing I could think you could say about him over the course of his tenure is he's never allowed, the entire culture, the entire group to get hit by any individual problem. And I think in a lot of ways, That to me is the mark of a great head coach. It's not if you could come in and call plays. We know Ben Johnson is an elite level play caller. We know at some point he's going to dial up a game plan for Caleb Williams that's going to be great. But how does he handle it when Caleb Williams has to go through all of the drama that comes with being a quarterback and the people that he brings into the building, married to the vision of the general manager? There's so many elements to running the operation. I think the best example in recent years of a guy that's come in that's done such a great job of reshaping an organization is Dan Campbell. And nobody talks about him as a coordinator or a play caller. He's a CEO. He's a culture builder and developer.
You know, one of the praises that I tend to give Sean and Brandon a lot over the last several seasons, they are not afraid to not be the smartest person in the room. You can just get that sense. They surround themselves with coaches and people who they hope to learn from, quite frankly. I don't get that feeling with Mike McDaniel. To me, every time I see him behind a microphone, he wants to come off as the smartest guy in the room. And if you're not following along, then that's on you. That is not on him. All right, next topic. Speaking of press conferences, let's talk a little bit about Josh and Tua. Tua had a press conference this week as well, and holy cow, did it go sideways. Tua basically said, I can't do half the things Josh Allen can do. Carl, you played Division I football at Syracuse. Can you ever imagine being in a spot where you go, man, I have no shot at keeping up with this guy?
No, and it's not even from Tua's perspective. You have 52 other brothers in that locker room that hears that, and they're like, well, sheesh, like you over here talking about him like he got an S on his chest. What chance do I have? I don't have that. That's how I feel about the thing. Obviously, he's not wrong. Like, Josh is obviously a very talented player who can do.
Thinking it and saying it, though, you just can't say that.
Because when you get up in the front of that podium, you're speaking for the entire organization. And I'm sure the Chop Robinson's like, hold on, my brother. Like, I'm not trying to hear that. Like, Zach Seiler's like, hey, my dude, like, relax. So that's how I felt about the conversation. Yeah, he's right, but, like, that's when keeping it real goes wrong.
Matt, when you heard those comments, what were your initial thoughts?
Jordan Poyer was right at the Bison at the Mike Hyde charity game a little over a year ago when he had just signed with the Dolphins. And you could tell he had buyer's remorse from the very beginning when he signed that deal with the Miami Dolphins. And, you know, talking about all he could talk about at that game was Josh Allen, how he's the best quarterback on the planet. And that was while he was about to go to Miami to join forces with Tua and that whole program down there. And, you know, it's tough because you go back and you look at Tua's career against Josh Allen and the Bills, and it's been nothing but losing. You know, he's 1-7 career against this team, 9 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. He's got 1 300-yard game, and that was the first time he ever played against them. It's been it's really been a joke of a rivalry since he's been there. And I think that wears on you over the course of time. And, you know, we've also seen Josh Allen come to power as Tua has tried to develop in the league. And, you know, you hear so much, and there's so much like unrest in that building right now. I mean, listen, there were parts of last week where I thought that the Miami Dolphins looked competitive, and there were pieces of that old offense that I think really scared the league for a while. Like, I don't want to rewrite history. The Miami Dolphins early in Mike McDaniel's tenure there, everybody thought, how is anybody gonna deal with this team? They were scoring points, they were moving the ball, they were hitting explosives. There's still an element of that there, but I just think that Tua, if you can get pressure on him early in the game, like we talked about before, with this offensive line as poor as it is, it almost forces him to shrivel. And with Josh Allen on the other side of things, it's a bad recipe.
Matt, you mentioned explosive. Ryan, hey, tick, tick. You hear that, right? That's Tyreek Hill. You talk about explosive, and I'm talking personality-wise now. Look, we know what he can do on the field, but if they don't get it figured out, I mean, he's going to be must-watch every game because we saw it last year, right? He took himself out of a game. He was just like, he was done with it. There were a couple of times body language already through 2 weeks. It has just looked really bad. When Thursday night football rolls around, if they struggle early on, I don't know about you, but I'm going to be watching Tyreek Hill and his body language immediately.
Yeah, that's going to be must-watch TV, in my opinion. You already saw him get overthrown once in the first 2 weeks this season. He starts stomping it on the field in frustration. The agitation is there. So you go to the end of last season where he pretty much makes it sound like he's not coming back, has the change of heart. They completed a 47-yard pass last week on a moon ball, but he wants those plays where he gets the shot to run after the catch. And if this doesn't happen against Buffalo, I think you're going to see some kind of outburst on the sideline in front of the national media.
All right, let's take a look at some topics kind of around the league right now. One of the big ones is the tush push. We saw the Eagles have used it, since they created it, right? And they've been effective with it. Whether you like it or not, their comment is, look, stop it. If you don't like it, stop it. They used it to beat the Chiefs. I don't think a lot of Bills fans were shedding tears over how they did it. But, Matt, let's start with you. This tush push thing, the league had a chance to kill it this past offseason, and they didn't. Where do they go from here?
I think first where you go from here is figuring out a way to officiate it in a proper way. I mean, this was only natural progression for this move as teams are trying to find any kind of competitive advantage. And I don't think anybody around the NFL feels bad for the Chiefs. I mean, obviously there's tape of the Eagles jumping off sides with their guards a little bit. But the Chiefs a couple of years ago when they first brought in Juwan Taylor, he had made it famous, the false start at right tackle. So I think it's about officiating the play properly so teams cannot take advantage of the rule. I mean, it's already an advantageous play for the Eagles, but I kind of fall into probably more of the camp of, hey, stop it, right? I'm not into the excuses. A lot of times, we're very close to the Bills situation. We've talked about this on the podcast before, but the Bills over the years have gotten very much, they crack down a lot on what we're able to film or report out at practice. And I don't know. A lot of times I think that when you approach competition like that, trying to hide things and be sneaky and all that kind of stuff, I kind of just want to roll the ball out. And maybe this is just my uninformed opinion and Carl can correct me. I want to roll the ball out there and just say, I'm better than you. I'm going to beat you. I don't even care if you have my playbook. We're going to run out there and I'm just better. I'm faster. I'm stronger. I'm smarter. I'm tougher. We're going to execute better. I think when you get kind of wrapped up in all the details about these things, oh no, I can't stop the tush push in football. It's what are we doing? What are we talking about?
Ryan, I think one of the issues a lot of fans had with this, I don't know if it's been a common thread in the past, but in this game against the Chiefs, it looked like the entire Eagles offensive line was leaning over the ball, and it looked like they were all offsides. Did you see that as well?
Yeah, 100%. That's the right assumption there. And if I'm the Chiefs, you call the league offices immediately after that game and you start complaining. And now in this next matchup that the Eagles have, I guarantee there's going to be an official watching from the side. And if anyone's leaning over, if the guards leave a little bit early, you're going to see a flag thrown. So now it's going to be up to the Eagles to adjust, to make sure that they're not doing that, because that's kind of a counterpunch to it. But in terms of am I in or out, I'm still in on the tush push. It's just like anything else. If you want to stop a team, come up with a way to do it. You don't go and try to change a rule. They're successful at doing it, and kudos to them for the high rate of success that they've had it over the years.
Let me just say, I would like to do a Ryan and Matt versus Josh and Carl tush push challenge. What do you think?
We're in.
I'm out.
My own teammate bailed on me, and I have a feeling it's because of me.
No, I'm too pretty to be doing all that. I'm a defensive back, baby. I don't do all of that. Grinding.
I'm a boundary corner, bro.
Yeah, Carl's not trying to get in there.
More like an offensive lineman, so that's my thing. Don't put me in a 40-yard dash. I'll try to let Parrino get that extra yard.
I'm with you, Ryan. I'm more of a lean forward guy, and just try to lean forward.
No, they ain't bring me to Syracuse to tackle. I'll tell you that. I'm cool. I'm trying to play defense and cover.
Carl, wrap it up. What's your thought on the tush push?
I'm in on it. I've said, similar to all you guys, stop it. It's a play. They making up ways why this is a health and safety issue, blase, blase. But I will say, from an officiating perspective, the play is so unique, it is hard to referee. There's no other play that looks like it. So I do understand how difficult it is for referees to officiate it. But we're sitting up here talking about this. This is going to get banned by next April with all the commotion around it. So I don't want it to go away, but I understand how difficult it is to officiate it.
All right, last one. We're going to make this one a little quicker here. Joe Burrow gets banged up because Joe Burrow has, it's kind of been the trend the last couple of years because his offensive line.
Cousin?
What's that? What you got?
Matt Milano's cousin.
Matt Milano, right? I mean, it sure seems that way. Look, here's the thing, though. Matt Milano's injuries are kind of, for better or worse, they're on him. Joe Burrow's injuries are because they didn't give him any offensive linemen. What do? They go out and hand the bag to T. Higgins and Jamar Chase and go, good luck, Joe Burrow. Matt, there are a lot of Bills fans who have been pounding the desk and the table to see the Bills pay all their money, every cent you have, to go get a superstar receiver. But this could be the downside of a plan like that.
Yeah, and I think, anytime your franchise quarterback goes down, I mean, I don't really care what kind of team you have accumulated. It's going to be a challenge unless you got Nick Foles waiting in the wings to come in and lead you on a Super Bowl run. I don't know if Mitchell Trubisky has that in him. Now, I will say, man, he looked the part for one play last week, and Sean McDermott is still talking about it, even when he wasn't asked about it. But I think the way teams are supposed to be built with a young quarterback, to me, is what the Bengals haven't done, the Miami Dolphins haven't done. And I feel like the Jets, even though we're coming off of a week where the Bills just absolutely stampeded them, they've at least taken the blueprint and are trying to figure it out. Armand Menbu in this last draft. They go out and they get Olu Fashanu in the draft before. You have to build up front in front of your quarterback. Joe Tippmann was a second or third round pick a couple of years ago. They spent a first round pick on Elijah Vera Tucker. I mean, the Jets don't have a quarterback, but their offensive line is starting to look like the kind of unit that you could set up if for some reason they're in line to take a top 3 quarterback in next year's draft. That's the way to do it. And it's great that the Bengals have signed T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. They're elite players. It's a fun offense. They scored all this points. But if you can't keep Joe Burrow on the field, what good is it?
Ryan, it sounds boring, but we hear Sean McDermott talking about it all the time. The games are won and lost up front in the trenches, the offense and defensive line. And until teams have that, it's going to be tough to maintain that success. Look at the Eagles. The Eagles are built up front.
And the Bills have a ton of continuity as well, which obviously helps them. But, in Cincinnati, this feels like Andrew Luck all over again, a special quarterback talent that is getting ruined by a lack of offensive line protecting him. They could have easily franchised T. Higgins, traded him for some decent picks, and then invested in the offensive line. When you have a superstar in Jamar Chase, it's great to have that 1B in T. Higgins, but if you can't protect your quarterback and you're putting him at risk every season of missing significant time, the end goal of reaching the Super Bowl is not going to happen.
Carl, I know you want to talk about skill players and defensive backs and wide receivers. I'm going to make you talk about the line. Because look, look what Joe Burrow has been what's been put in front of Joe Burrow at this point.
No, I've been banging the drum on the fact that the Bengals have completely butchered this era of Joe Burrow. When you have an elite quarterback, we're talking about your Burrows, your Allens, your Mahomes, of the guys of yesteryear, your Manning, your Breezes, your Rodgers, your Bradys. Yes, all of those guys maybe had 1 or 2 all-pro caliber guys on the outside, but do not get it twisted. All of those players had really good offensive lines. Even dating back to the Colts, I know they had Reggie Wayne and Marvin Harrison. Jeff Saturday was up the middle Hall of Fame center, and they also had really good tackles at all times to protect Peyton Manning. When I look back to the 2022 season when Patrick Mahomes won the MVP and then they won the Super Bowl as well, I believe, over the 49ers, who was their best wide receiver? Juju Smith-Schuster, Sky Moore, Kadarius Toney, and the reason why they were so successful is that they had a really nice interior. They had a right tackle who, when he didn't fall start, was actually pretty good, and then Donovan Smith. When I look at this Bills roster, Josh Allen is phenomenal, but the fact that he has 5 guys up front that can help him in the passing game as well as they can run the ball on their terms because they have a really good offensive line, that's the other part of this equation. They can run the ball. The Bengals can't, and I think that's where, when I watch this Bengals team, they're going to have to reconfigure how they do everything and put some more resources up front to protect Joe.
All right, got 30 seconds, a little bit of housekeeping here. Let's shameless self-promotion here. Center Stage with Eric Wood is the show that I'm working on. That's coming up on WIVB Plus Friday night this week. Carl, you've got a show that you're doing. When's that coming up?
It's actually already out, so make sure you tune into it, Mafia Huddle.
Matt, hit us. What do you got?
You can find Shout on all of your platforms.
Yeah,
YouTube,
you can.
Video side. audio side, Spotify. And by the way, Apple, if you're watching on YouTube right now, I didn't get to say this at the start of the show. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel as well. Get yourself some Josh.
Hit it.
Carl Jones every week, baby.
All right, love it, guys. Episode 1 in the books. We did not take it off the rails too far. For Matt, for Ryan, for Carl, I'm Josh. Thanks for watching and listening.